Okay, so imagine a future where working on some of the coolest AI projects could actually land you in some serious trouble.
Yeah, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi thriller.
But it's a reality that we could be facing if Senator Hawley gets his way with this new bill. He's calling it the Decoupling America's Artificial Intelligence Capabilities from China Act of 2025.
Catchy title.
Right. We're
Yeah.
talking about potentially cutting off the U.S. from any sort of involvement in developing AI over in China. And the potential fallout from that is, well, it's pretty massive.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the global tech landscape, it's all so interconnected. Trying to separate things like this could really stifle innovation on all sides.
Absolutely. And we've got the actual bill text right here. It's
Oh.
pretty dense.
Oh, I bet.
But one of the things that jumps out right away is how they define artificial intelligence and generative AI.
Oh, yeah, so.
Well, it's not just about the stuff we use every day,
Yeah.
like your chatbots or those AI image generators. They're talking about a scope so broad it could encompass even the most basic tech.
Wow. Like, what kind of stuff are we talking about?
Think about things like the circuit boards in our phones or the cloud computing services that power a huge chunk of the internet.
Hmm.
Even those could be seen as potential contributors to AI capabilities under this bill.
That's a really broad definition.
Right. It feels like they're casting a net so wide it could snag pretty much anything even remotely related to tech.
Yeah, that's worrying. It could really stifle innovation across the board, not just in the super flashy AI stuff we see in the news all the time.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the really concerning parts, the import and export restrictions.
Okay. So we're talking about an all-out ban on bringing in AI tech developed in China or sending our own AI tech there.
Yep, pretty much. You can't buy it. You can't
That's
sell it. It's like trying to build a house without using any wood. You know, it just doesn't make sense.
It's like trying to advance medical research but saying, okay, no collaborating between labs in different countries.
Right. Ultimately, everyone loses out. And it gets even more intense. The bill actually wants to criminalize U.S. citizens who get involved in AI research within China or even just share research information.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, we're talking big fines, losing federal benefits, and even potential problems with immigration.
That's pretty extreme.
Right. It feels like a step backward, almost like they're trying to control the spread of ideas by banning books or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, it sends a really troubling message about our values and our belief in open scientific exchange.
Totally. And what about the potential impact on scientific progress?
It's huge. I mean, imagine being penalized for pursuing knowledge that could potentially lead to life-saving breakthroughs. It sets a dangerous precedent.
It really does. It feels like we're sacrificing open scientific exploration and global benefit all for the sake of control.
Right. And it's not just individuals who would be affected. Think about universities and institutions that have spent years building relationships with their counterparts in China. They'd be forced to dismantle entire research programs, potentially setting back progress by years or even decades.
It's like ripping out the engine of a perfectly good car because you're worried someone might drive it too fast.
Exactly. You might think you're being cautious, but you're actually causing more harm than good.
And then there's the economic fallout. Cutting off collaboration and investment between the U.S. and China could have ripple effects throughout the entire global tech industry.
It'd be like trying to win an Olympic race, but refusing to train with athletes from other countries.
Right. You might feel like you're protecting your advantage in the short term, but you're actually limiting your potential and hindering the progress of the entire sport.
And let's not forget about the chilling effect this could have on the free exchange of ideas. Researchers might be hesitant to collaborate or share their work for fear of reprisal.
So we end up with a less informed, less innovative, and ultimately less secure world.
Precisely. It's a classic case of cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential impact on research collaboration and the economy, but there's another layer to this. The bill specifically targets what it calls China's military-civil fusion strategy.
Right, that's a key part of this whole thing.
Can you break that down for us a bit? It seems to be a major driving force behind these proposed restrictions.
Well, it's basically the idea that in China, the lines between civilian research and military research are blurred.
Okay.
So the concern is that any advances in AI, even seemingly benign ones, could potentially be repurposed for military applications.
So even if you're working on something like an AI that helps diagnose diseases, there's a fear that it could somehow be twisted and used for military purposes.
That's the thinking.
So the argument is that by supporting AI development in China, even indirectly, We could be inadvertently boosting their military capabilities.
Exact.
But isn't that taking things a bit too far? I mean, wouldn't that logic prevent us from collaborating on things like climate change research or developing new medical treatments?
That's a danger.
We could end up sacrificing progress in areas that could benefit all of humanity because of this fear that any technological advancement could potentially be weaponized.
It's a slippery slope.
It really is. I
Yeah.
feel this bill might be swinging the pendulum too far towards isolation and control.
And it's important to remember that China isn't the only country with a military-civil fusion strategy. Many countries, including the U.S., blur those lines to some extent.
Right. So it's not like this is some unique threat posed by China. It's a reality of the modern world where technology and national security are increasingly intertwined.
Exactly. And instead of trying to isolate ourselves, we need to be engaging in dialogue, building trust, and working together to establish international norms and safeguards around AI development.
It feels like this bill is a step in the wrong direction. It's a retreat from global engagement and a move towards a more isolationist and ultimately less secure world.
I agree. It's a short-sighted approach that could have long-term consequences for both the U.S. and the global community.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's still much more to unpack. Let's delve deeper into the potential consequences of this approach in our next segment.
Absolutely. There's a lot more to discuss. It's easy to get lost in all the policy jargon, but this bill isn't just about abstract geopolitical maneuvering.
Right.
It has real-world consequences for the people who are actually working on the front lines of AI research.
Absolutely.
Like, imagine a brilliant young scientist in the US who's passionate about working with colleagues in China.
Okay.
Let's say they're collaborating on developing AI-powered tools for early cancer detection.
That would be amazing.
Right. But this bill could force that researcher to make an impossible choice, pursue their passion and risk facing legal repercussions, or abandon their work altogether.
Wow.
It's basically criminalizing collaboration and the free exchange of ideas.
It's like telling scientists, hey, you can't share your discoveries with anyone outside your own country.
Exactly. It's like trying to put a lid on human curiosity and ingenuity. It just doesn't work.
And we've seen this throughout history, right? Trying to suppress knowledge rarely, if ever, works in the long run.
Never. It usually just drives it underground,
Mhm.
making it harder to track and potentially even more dangerous.
Right? It's like trying to stop a river by building a dam. You might slow it down for a while, but eventually the water's going to find a way through.
Exactly. And it's not just individual researchers who would be affected. Think about universities and research institutions that have spent years building partnerships with their counterparts in China.
Right. They've invested so much time and resources into these collaborations.
This bill could force them to sever those ties, potentially dismantling entire research programs.
And setting back scientific progress by years, if not decades.
It's a huge loss for everyone involved.
It's like trying to dismantle a finely tuned engine by removing a crucial component.
The whole system starts to sputter and fail.
Exactly. And we haven't even talked about the potential economic fallout yet.
Right, that's another huge concern.
Cutting off collaboration and investment in AI between the U.S. and China, two of the world's biggest players, could have ripple effects throughout the entire global tech industry.
It would be like trying to have a global economy, but saying, okay, no trading between these two massive economic powerhouses. The whole system would be thrown out of whack.
Absolutely. And the economic impact would be felt far beyond just the tech sector.
Right. It would touch everything from manufacturing and agriculture to healthcare and education.
It's a ripple effect that could have far-reaching consequences.
So the proponents of this bill argue that these restrictions are necessary to protect national security and prevent the misuse of AI.
That's the main argument we hear.
But isn't there a risk that this approach could backfire and ultimately make us less safe?
That's the big question, isn't it? By trying to isolate ourselves and control the flow of knowledge, we might inadvertently create a more fragmented and less transparent global AI landscape.
It's like trying to contain a virus by building walls around it.
Exactly. You might slow the spread temporarily, but it doesn't address the root of the problem and could even make it harder to develop a cure.
So instead of trying to control AI through restrictions and bans, maybe we should be focusing on building bridges and fostering collaboration.
That's a much more sustainable and effective approach in the long run. We need to be working together, not against each other, if we want to ensure that AI is developed and used responsibly for the benefit of all humankind.
Absolutely. And there's the ethical dimension to consider as well.
Right. What about the ethical implications of all this?
Well, there's something inherently troubling about restricting access to knowledge and collaboration based on nationality or political affiliation.
It feels like it goes against the very principles of open scientific inquiry and the pursuit of knowledge for the betterment of humanity.
It does. It's like saying only people from certain countries are allowed to contribute to finding a cure for cancer.
Or developing solutions to climate change.
Exactly. It's not just impractical, it's morally wrong.
So if we acknowledge the potential risks of unfettered AI development, but also recognize the dangers of isolation and control what's the path forward.
That's the million-dollar question. The key is finding the right balance between promoting innovation and safeguarding against potential risks.
Easier said than done, I guess.
Yeah. It is, but it's not impossible. Instead of focusing on restrictions and bans, we should be prioritizing international cooperation on AI ethics and safety standards.
So instead of building walls, we should be building bridges.
Exactly. We need to be working together, not against each other, to create a global framework for responsible AI development.
That sounds like a much more sensible approach.
It is, and it's not just a task for governments and policymakers. We all have a role to play.
Okay, so what can we do as individuals to help ensure that AI is developed and used ethically?
Well, for starters, we can educate ourselves about the potential benefits and risks of AI.
Right. Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to understand how this technology works and what its implications are for society.
So do your research read articles, talk to experts, attend conferences?
Exactly. The more informed we are, the better equipped we'll be to make responsible choices about the development and use of AI.
And we can also support organizations that are working to promote ethical AI development.
Absolutely. There are a number of groups, both within the U.S. and internationally, that are dedicated to fostering responsible AI innovation.
So find those organizations and get involved. Donate to their cause, volunteer your time, or spread the word about their work.
Exactly. Every little bit helps.
And we can also engage in conversations about these issues with our friends, family, and colleagues.
That's so important. We need to be having open and honest discussions about the ethical implications of AI.
Don't be afraid to bring it up at the dinner table or in the workplace.
Right. These are conversations that need to be happening everywhere.
And finally, we can advocate for policies that promote international cooperation and scientific exchange.
Absolutely. We need to let our elected officials know that we support a collaborative approach to AI development.
Write to your representatives, attend town hall meetings, get involved in the political process.
Exactly. We need to make our voices heard and push for policies that promote a more open and collaborative global AI landscape.
So it's about recognizing that the future of AI is not something that's being done to us. It's something we're all creating together through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to engage in these crucial conversations.
Precisely. We all have a responsibility to shape the future of this technology and ensure that it's used for good.
And that brings us to a rather unsettling thought. If this bill were to become law, wouldn't it just drive AI development further underground?
It's definitely a possibility. Think about it. Researchers could find ways to collaborate through back channels, share information through encrypted networks, or even set up research hubs in countries not subject to these restrictions.
So we could end up with a shadow AI ecosystem operating outside of established regulations and ethical frameworks.
It's a real concern. We've already seen this happen with other technologies that have been subject to strict controls. Think about the proliferation of dark web marketplaces where illegal goods and services are traded.
Right. It's like trying to ban something, but only making it more appealing to those who want to do it anyway.
Exactly, and that's the danger of trying to control AI through restrictive legislation. You might inadvertently create a more dangerous and less accountable system.
Wouldn't that scenario actually make us less safe? If bad actors are developing AI capabilities without any oversight or accountability, that's a recipe for disaster.
Precisely. We need to be fostering a culture of transparency, open communication, and shared responsibility, not driving AI development into the shadows.
So instead of trying to contain AI development, maybe we should be focusing on guiding it in a direction that benefits humanity.
That's the key. We need to be shaping the future of AI, not trying to suppress it.
It's like the difference between trying to contain a wildfire by building a wall around it and working to manage the forest in a way that prevents fires from breaking out in the first place.
That's a great analogy. It highlights the importance of addressing the root causes of the fear and mistrust that are driving this push towards techno-nationalism.
Instead of viewing each other as rivals in a zero-sum game, we need to find ways to cooperate and collaborate for the common good.
Exactly. And that brings us to another point, individual resistance. History is full of examples of people finding ways to resist unjust laws and oppressive regimes.
Right. Think about the scientists and academics who defied travel bans and risked their careers to collaborate with colleagues in other countries during the Cold War.
Or the activists who use technology to circumvent censorship and share information during periods of political repression.
Human ingenuity and the desire for knowledge and connection always find a way.
Exactly. And I think we'd see a similar response from the AI research community if this bill were to pass.
So even if this bill were to become law, it wouldn't necessarily stop the flow of knowledge and collaboration. It might just force it to take on new, more clandestine forms.
Precisely. The human spirit of innovation and the pursuit of knowledge are powerful forces that can't easily be suppressed.
And history has shown us that attempts to control information and restrict collaboration often backfire, leading to unintended consequences.
Absolutely. It's like trying to hold back the tide. You might be able to do it for a little while, but eventually the water's going to come rushing in.
So it seems like the proponents of this bill might not have fully considered the potential for unintended consequences.
It's a valid point. It's like they're so focused on controlling AI that they haven't thought about what might happen if their efforts backfire.
And that could lead to a situation that's even more dangerous and less accountable.
Exactly. It's a classic case of the cure being worse than the disease.
So maybe instead of trying to control AI through top-down restrictions, we should be focusing on fostering a more open and collaborative approach.
That's the key. We need to be working together to create a future where AI is developed and used ethically and responsibly.
It's about building trust, not walls.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that the future of AI is too important to leave to chance or to allow fear and mistrust to dictate our choices.
We need to be having these conversations, bringing these issues to light, and engaging in a thoughtful and nuanced debate about the future of AI and its impact on society.
Absolutely. We need to be proactive, not reactive. We need to be shaping the future of AI, not letting it shape us.
We've delved into some pretty heavy stuff here.
Yeah.
We've talked about the potential for this bill to stifle innovation, hinder scientific progress, exacerbate global tensions, and even undermine our own security.
It's a lot to process.
It is. But it's crucial that we don't shy away from these difficult conversations. The future of AI is too important to leave it to chance or to allow fear and mistrust to dictate our choices.
We need to be having these conversations, bringing these issues to light, and engaging in a thoughtful and nuanced debate about the future of AI and its impact on society.
Absolutely. We need to be proactive, not reactive. We need to be shaping the future of AI, not letting it shape us.
Okay.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk about what a more positive, more collaborative approach to AI development might look like.
Okay.
If we were to reject the isolationist, control-oriented mindset embodied in this bill, what kind of future could we envision?
I think it's a future where we recognize that the challenges we face, from climate change and pandemics to poverty and inequality, are global in nature and require global solutions.
A future where we see AI not as a weapon to be wielded against each other, but as a tool for collective problem solving, for advancing scientific understanding, and for improving the lives of people around the world.
Exactly. Imagine a world where researchers from different countries collaborate seamlessly to develop AI-powered systems for early disease detection, disaster response, or sustainable energy production.
A world where we share knowledge freely, learn from each other's successes and failures, and work together to ensure that the benefits of AI are accessible to all, regardless of nationality or socioeconomic status.
It's a vision worth striving for, isn't it? And it all starts with rejecting the divisive, fear-based rhetoric that's driving policies like this bill and embracing a more open, collaborative, and humane approach to technology development.
But let's be realistic. Shifting from a mindset of competition and control to one of cooperation and shared responsibility is a tall order. How do we even begin to bridge the divides that have become so entrenched in our political and technological landscape?
It's not easy, but I believe it's possible. It starts with recognizing our shared humanity even amidst our differences. It's about remembering that we're all in this together, facing the same global challenges, and that our fates are intertwined.
It's about finding ways to rebuild trust, to foster dialogue, and to create spaces where we can engage in open and honest conversations about the future we want to create.
And it's about recognizing that technology is not some external force acting upon us. It's a reflection of our values, our choices, and our collective will. The future of AI is not predetermined. It's a story that's still being written, and we all have a role to play in shaping its narrative.
So what are some concrete steps we can take to push back against this trend towards techno-nationalism and create a more positive, collaborative future for AI?
Well, for starters, we can support organizations that are working to develop international standards for ethical AI development and governance. There are a number of groups both within the US and internationally that are dedicated to fostering responsible AI innovation and ensuring that it's used for the benefit of all humankind.
So individuals can make a difference by getting involved with these organizations, donating to their cause, or even volunteering their time and expertise.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps. And it's not just about financial contributions. We can also raise awareness about these issues within our own communities, engage in constructive dialogue with people who hold different viewpoints, and advocate for policies that promote international cooperation and scientific exchange.
So it's about using our voices, our platforms, and our networks to challenge the narrative of fear and division and to promote a more hopeful and collaborative vision for the future of AI.
Exactly. And let's not underestimate the power of education. The more people understand about AI, its potential benefits and risks, the better equipped they'll be to engage in these crucial conversations and make informed choices about the kind of future they want to create.
So supporting STEM education initiatives, promoting digital literacy, and fostering critical thinking skills are all important steps towards building a more AI-savvy and ethically aware society.
Precisely. And it's not just about technical skills. We also need to cultivate empathy, compassion, and a sense of global citizenship if we want to ensure that AI is used to bridge divides, not create them.
So it's about fostering a more holistic understanding of technology,
Right.
recognizing that it's not just about bits and bytes, but about human values relationships and our collective responsibility to create a more just and equitable world.
That's beautifully put. And it brings us back to the heart of this conversation.
Hmm.
We're not just talking about abstract policy debates or technological advancements. We're talking about the kind of world we want to live in, the kind of future we want to leave for generations to come.
It's a future that's worth fighting for, and it's a fight that we can all be a part of. Even small actions, like having these conversations, raising awareness, or supporting organizations that are working to promote ethical AI development, can make a difference.
Absolutely. Every voice matters. Every act of courage and compassion can ripple outward, inspiring others to join the movement for a more just and equitable technological future.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the potential dangers of this bill to the broader challenges of techno-nationalism and the need for a more collaborative, ethical approach to AI development.
We've explored the potential consequences of isolation and control and discussed the importance of individual action, global cooperation, and a shared vision for a future where AI benefits all of humanity.
I think it's safe to say that we've only just scratched the surface of this incredibly complex and rapidly evolving topic.
Right. But hopefully we've given our listeners some food for thought and inspired them to continue exploring these issues and engaging in these crucial conversations.
It feels like this bill really highlights a much bigger issue we're grappling with as a society.
Yeah, it's not just about AI, it's about our entire approach to technology and innovation in a world that's becoming increasingly interconnected.
Exactly. It's like we're stuck between this urge to hold on to control and this recognition that global collaboration is more important than ever.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It really is.
Yeah.
This bill seems to represent this worldview where technological dominance is a zero-sum game.
Like if one country wins, the other automatically loses.
Right. But isn't that kind of thinking outdated in today's world? I mean, no single country can corner the market on innovation anymore.
It's a very old school way of thinking. It's rooted in fear and scarcity.
It's like they're saying there's only so much knowledge to go around and we need to grab as much as we can before someone else gets it.
But that's not how innovation works. It thrives on openness and collaboration.
Right. It's like saying, okay, only people in this one town are allowed to invent new things.
Exactly. It's nonsensical. The reality is that the biggest challenges we face today, things like climate change, pandemics, poverty, inequality, they're all global issues.
And they require global solutions.
Exactly. We can't solve them by isolating ourselves or trying to hoard knowledge.
So maybe instead of viewing technology as a weapon to be used against each other, we should be thinking about it as a tool for collective problem solving.
That's a much more productive and ultimately more beneficial approach.
Imagine if, instead of trying to control and restrict AI development, we focused on creating a global ecosystem where everyone benefits from its progress.
A world where researchers collaborate freely, ethical guidelines are shared, and the benefits of AI are accessible to all.
It sounds like a utopian dream.
Maybe, but it's a dream worth striving for.
It is. And it starts with challenging these outdated notions of technological dominance and embracing a more collaborative and humane approach to innovation.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together, and that our collective well-being depends on our ability to work together.
Powerful stuff. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some final thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with? What can they do as individuals to help shape a more positive and collaborative future for AI?
Well, first and foremost, stay informed and stay engaged. Educate yourself about the potential benefits and risks of AI support organizations that are working to promote ethical AI development, and engage in constructive conversations about these issues with your friends, family, and colleagues.
So it's about being informed, being proactive, and using our voices to advocate for a more ethical and collaborative approach to AI development.
Exactly. And remember, every little bit helps.
Yeah.
Every conversation, every choice, every act of courage and compassion can contribute to creating a more just and equitable technological future.
So to our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a future where AI empowers us all to build a better world.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
And thank you all for listening.